So to me, success was important, but and I think this is true for almost everybody in the room. I think you have to love what you do. If you don't love what you do, you're not going to be successful. And I loved what I did. I did real estate. I went in early. I always loved sports. I would have loved to be any kind. I'm not a bad golfer, right? And but I always
we won.
We won.
We won.
We're gonna always win, you and I. We're never gonna lose.
They choked. They choked. Did they choke?
They choked.
They were chokers.
They choked like dogs, right?
Chokers and losers.
When I talked about success, I always started, you have to do something you love. If you don't do what you love, you're most likely not going to be successful. And you're going to have a lot of people, your parents included, they're going to be saying, don't do that, don't do that. And you have to listen to them. They're wise, they've been around, they've seen. And sometimes, and I tell people, sometimes they go into a business where basically you can't be successful. Nobody's successful. If you can get away from that, get away from it, if you can. But you have to make sure that you do something that you love. Try to go into something that you love that can be a good business. So, a lot of people go into businesses that
don't work,
are just not good.
So when you're in New York City, like one of the most competitive places in the world, how do you stand out as a young man? How did you stand out? What did you do? And then how do you stay relevant in that environment that's so vicious?
So when I was young, my father built in Brooklyn and Queens, the boroughs. And he did a great job. He was a very strong guy, but a good guy, a guy with a tremendous heart, but he was strong, very powerful type of personality. And he built single-family housing, whatever he built, but he'd save the nails and the sawdust and the chips of wood, and he'd take them and sell them. I mean, it's like extreme, but he was very extreme. I'll give you a quick story. So we have apartment buildings. And I walked to my father's desk in Brooklyn. This is a long time, I was young. And there's a picture of a roach, a cockroach, on a can, like a paint can, a 5-gallon paint can, and it's sitting on his desk. I said, Dad, what the hell is that? The cockroach was turned upside down, dead. And it said, the name of the product was Bye Bye Roach. And my father said, this stuff is the greatest stuff we've ever used, but it's too expensive. I don't like it. So I'm sending it up to your uncle at MIT. They're going to analyze it. He's going to send it back and tell me what ingredients are in. I said, what are you doing, Dad? He said, I can save $4 a gallon. I say, Pop, is it really worth it? He said, yeah, it's worth it. That's the way you make money. And to a certain extent, it's not penny wise. You got to save the pennies. That's a great thinking. So he wants to take something that's expensive, that's good, and send it up to a laboratory at MIT, find out what the ingredients are, because he can save a couple of dollars a gallon.
How important do you think it is for this audience to have real estate as part of their portfolio?
I think real estate, Grant, is got to be part of a portfolio. It's been, first of all, there are tax advantages, depreciation. A lot of people, you'll look at a project and you'll have a loss. Now, not good for your ego, but it made money, but you don't pay tax, and it shows after depreciation, you have a loss. A lot of times they'll analyze my stuff. They'll say, well, you lost money. I say, yeah, I lost money. But you're not losing money. In fact, that loss, you can carry it over to other jobs where you're making a profit. So real estate, from the standpoint of tax benefits, has been great. But I love the real estate business. I love the creativity of real estate. And I think I always will. Even as president, I'd say, boy, that's a great site for a building, right?
You still see sites and that's a good location.
Everything I do. I mean, I see so much. I'll look at something, and that's it was in my blood from the time I'm very young. I loved the creative process of building. Inflation has always been very good for real estate. But unfortunately, at the end, the whole thing pops. Okay, that's the bad part, and you haven't seen that yet, and hopefully you won't. Hopefully changes will be made, substantial changes, and you won't see that. But inflation is a good thing for real estate, not a bad thing for
Very
real estate,
good.
Okay? So I have to tell you, this inflation, but it's bad for other parts of the country, and it's very bad. Ultimately, it explodes. Inflation is wonderful until it all explodes.